Hi, I'm Ryan Wright.
And I'm Jerry.
And I'm Michelle Q.
Welcome to Reasons to See.
Where we give you reasons to see.
And not to see.
Mama.
Mama.
Mama. Mama.
Mama. Mama. So let's hang out. Ryan's Consensus. There are a lot of reasons to see Mama. There are a lot of reasons to see Mama.
There are a lot of reasons to see Mama.
Jerry's Consensus. There are some strong reasons to see Mama. There are some strong reasons to see Mama.
Should I do that? Michelle's Consensus. There are a lot of reasons to see Mama. There are a lot of reasons to see Mama.
Reason to see number 1, the horror. This film did scare me a lot. I was very scared throughout a good amount of it. It's not consistently scary. It's mainly jump scares, I would say.
It's definitely got a creepy vibe and a cool sort of eeriness about it, which I really like. As far as scares go, there are a couple really good jump scares that I jumped and was like, ah! At.
When she goes into the closet,
yeah,
and then she just appears like, yeah. I thought Mama was pretty scary, and I liked how you actually see Mama early on. Like, they establish that, no, it's a ghost, guys. And there are times where it's scary where they're not even really trying to be scary. Some of the horror is kind of funny at times. When Lily is tugging on the sheet.
Yeah. Playing in the bedroom.
It's scary, but it's also kind of funny at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's a certain type of enthusiasm to the scares that I really enjoyed.
In that scene, you kind of see the establishment of the relationship between Lily and Mama.
That mother and her child, playfulness, which
they're playing together.
Well, they do a good job with that, psychological element.
It's weird. I've never cared so much about children before. That also scared the living shit out of me.
I like that they had that intro because it immediately establishes sympathy and humanity for these kids before it turns them into complete animals.
Yeah, because
so
they're not.
It makes that possible.
And their animalistic qualities actually make sense to the story. It makes sense the way they move. It's not like they're just weird, supernatural, freaky little kids. Based off their upbringing, based off who's been raising them, it actually makes perfect sense of what's going on.
Yeah.
And why they move the way they do, you know?
Yeah.
Because they move like Mama.
Creepy little fucks.
It's almost like an animal pack where it's like, that whole thing where they first discover them in the cabin and she like scuttles up on top of the fridge or whatever, and then the younger sister scuttles up underneath her and they're sort of protecting each other.
It's kind of a fantasy type of horror at the same time. You could almost call it the legend of Mama.
It's a total fairy tale. I mean, jump scares, people call that cheap because it doesn't stay, like anyone can make somebody jump by making loud sounds and cutting to something. So I get why people complain, but at the same time, it's a component of horror and it serves its purpose. And as it stands, this isn't a movie that's like a jump scare around every corner.
Yeah.
Like, there is some suspense, and like I said, part of the horror that I enjoyed the most in this is all the eerie, sort of creepy stuff.
The fear is very menacing throughout the whole entire movie. There's this threat of when is Mama gonna come out? What's Mama gonna do next?
And which side are these children on? Are the children for, Annabelle and Luke, or are they for Mama? What's going to happen with them? Are they kind of doing some type of manipulation? When you're seeing it through Mama's point of view, that dream sequence where they're showing you, where she stabs the nun and everything like that. That was just fantastic to me.
Yeah.
It's creepy. It's kind of scary to watch. Even though you're seeing it through her point of view, it's still kind of scary to look at.
Well, and the visuals aid with that.
That's why I like the jump scares, because the jump scares are usually backed up with some type of creepy visual at the same time.
Reason to see number 2. The directing and the writing.
It's rare where you get a horror movie that is so character-based. Every character in this film I thought was fully fleshed out. From Jessica Chastain to Luke to the little girls. Even Mama is actually a fleshed out character. It makes sense what's going on there.
I sort of feel like Jessica Chastain and Mama are the ones who get the most fleshing, because Luke disappears for a lot of the movie.
But regardless, you still understand his intent, you still understand why he feels the way he feels. I like how Annabelle and Luke have this real relationship that's going on, where Luke is so focused on doing this for the children and trying to find these kids, see what's up, and Annabelle is kind of distancing herself from the relationship, and she wants to lead her own type of life, and she's constantly being thrown into these situations. And with the fairy tale aspect, it's almost like it was fate for her to be put into this situation where by the end of this movie she's willing to sacrifice her life pretty much to save these kids, who she originally is like, I don't really want anything to do with these kids, you know?
Well, yeah, because it's a shake-up on her lifestyle, you know, and their lifestyle, because they're not equipped for that anyway, so, you know, and that's where the most growth comes from. Her choice to her bonding with the kids, and also with where the kids decide to go to.
Because this movie, in a lot of ways, you could almost call it a psychological horror film at times as well. Because there's a lot of psychology they infuse into a ghost story, which you don't often see. You usually got some type of paranormal expert that comes along. This time it's like, no, they got a psychologist expert who comes along. Hypnotherapy sessions with the children to try to figure out who this mama is, calling it a split personality. Rather than being like, come on, you idiots, can't you tell it's a ghost? It makes perfect sense why they're assuming the schizophrenia and everything like that, and when they have those moments where they're in their observation room and you see the children talking to mama. You see them in the footage. The audience knows, like, they're really talking to a ghost, you guys.
That's the thing I kind of didn't fully get, actually, is the fact that they can see mama, and there is a point where someone says, like, she doesn't want you to see her or something, so she has to... Mama hides.
Yeah.
So I did have to at one point be like, if they're talking to her now and people see them later on, like, why can't we see her now?
Because remember this, Victoria I think she tells the therapist that mama lives in the wall. That's why they're talking to the walls, because they're like calling for her.
Yeah, maybe they see the moth thing forming on the wall.
Possibly. I guess didn't fully get addressed for me, so I did. It's only a little thing.
I was fine with it because at that point in the movie, you don't really know much about how the mama apparition really works.
Yeah.
Can assume, like, oh, maybe only the children can see her. So when she starts appearing to other people, it makes it that much scarier.
Felt, at least momentarily, like bending the rules to make it scarier for a minute.
Yeah, I could give you that. I adored the ending of it.
It made sense, like they stuck true to all the things they established, and the way the children decide to go and their decisions at the end, I thought was a cool way to go. Instead of saving both of them and having one big happy family, it's like, no, the younger one is gonna go with mama because that's all she knows.
When this film is dealing so much with psychology, you cannot ignore the way how human beings would actually function. When the little girl Lily is being raised by a ghost as a baby, of course she's gonna associate her as her mother. She's not gonna go, oh, it's a ghost, it's scary. She's just gonna know her as her mother. And Victoria is probably able to discern the difference because she actually has vague memories of what it's like to have real parents and a real family. And through going through the process with Annabelle and Luke, of course she's gonna like start being more attached to that because that's what she originally grew up with to begin with.
Yes.
Well, they make that a good transition. She sees Luke, and then that reminds her of her father, and then that brings something back, and then they give her glasses, and it's, you know, she broke her glasses on the way to the cabin, which is a cool little, you know, way to bring it back. And also, it struck me that she's never actually fully seen what mama looks like because her vision is so bad.
Yeah.
So I think that's another thing that helps to sort of ground her in the you know, like, civilized world. It's like when she starts actually seeing what mama looks like, it's not like it's terrifying to her, but it does seem like it could be a little bit like, oh,
Yeah.
that's who's been raising me.
Because there's a part in the movie where she actually like takes off her glasses before going into the room where Lily's playing with mama. Kind of like she's choosing so that she can maintain, I guess, this idea of mama. Further along in the movie, you notice she does not take off her glasses anymore when mama's around.
That's almost like an act of defiance because it's a gift from them who's trying to take her away from mama, and that's, you know, she smashes them when that whole big attack sequence comes
And it
up.
can also be like, oh, she's starting to see more clearly now.
Yeah, you know, it's
a good symbolism.
It's symbolism, yeah. Her glasses broke right when her world went a different direction. Then when she comes back to the, you know, civilized world, you know, she gains her vision back.
The story is kind of familiar, but I thought they did a kind of a fresh take on it, you know? Bringing the fairy tale elements into it and not just making it like some long drawn out tension filled, because there's a lot of different layers in it. Sometimes it's just dramatic, sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's scary, sometimes it feels like a fantasy. You know, they got a lot of different themes going on, and the director, Andre Muschietti, something like that. I can never pronounce the guy's last name or his first name, I always get it wrong. You know, like a lot of people are looking at Guillermo del Toro, but I feel like a lot of the credit actually goes to him because he's like the story creator of it, he's the co-writer, he's the director. This is really his film. and he did an excellent job at it, you know? It definitely has Del Toro's horror fantasy stamp on it.
You can see why he presented this movie.
Yeah.
And there's a ton of Spanish crew. It's also, yeah, you definitely gotta give Andre Muschietti credit, because even if the script isn't fully up to it, the direction is. Like, it's a really well-directed movie, and it makes you excited to see what he's gonna do next, you know?
Yeah. In some ways, it really actually brought to mind the legend of La Llorona, because it's the same kind of idea of a woman who, she just murders her kids, and the legend is like, you know, you gotta beware of La Llorona because she's gonna take you in the night, you know, and make you her kid and then eventually kill you. And that's kind of essentially what's going on with Mama here.
I didn't even think of that.
That's what I mean. There's some there's some homage aspects going on in this film that I really do enjoy. Some people are calling this like confusing and hard to follow, but I don't really think it is confusing and hard to follow, you know?
The main story is, there were some things in the third act where I felt like something had been cut out or missing. Because the whole thing where Luke's brother shows up, and he's like twitching around, and he's like, come to the cabin.
They don't wrap it up.
And then I'm like, why did you go?
Yeah.
Did we not? Were we gonna? You know, because I felt like they opened on him and then they brought him back, the brother, in some way, and I thought they were gonna do something with that so that the brothers get a moment or some kind of confrontation of at least the emotion there happens. And then he sort of goes out into the woods, and then he just meets her when she comes to the woods. The only person I fully bought their trip into the woods for was Jessica Chastain's character, was Annabelle. Because, like, then I was like, yes, you have, like, a perfect reason to go right now to the woods. It's like, why does everybody leave at, like, 5:30 when it's going to be dark in an hour? Like,
that's what I thought. That's what I was thinking, too.
It always made sense why they went there and what they did, but the thing that never made sense was, why are you going so late at night?
Why are you going so late at night, and why are you lost? Why do you not seem like you know where this is, even though people have already found it and you have a map?
Reason to see number 3, cinematography.
The cinematography was beautiful to look at from the beginning of the movie, you know, like that, just that moment where those children are sitting by the fire in the cabin and then Mama rolls the cherry to them. From that moment I was like, wow, what beautiful cinematography we're looking at right now.
Well, and they played a lot with color and stuff like that. Like, you notice the color balances on on a lot of the scenes changed from like blues to golds to these redder colors.
It changes up.
There are some really stylized moments that are really cool. I mean, there's a moment in the cabin where all the horror is happening through like the flashes of a camera, and there's an even better, there's the dream sequence that is shot in a way that makes it look like an old photograph, but it's still, but it's moving. And, you know, like, I saw the short this movie is based on, and dude clearly knows what he's doing with imagery, and this movie takes that to another level in a really cool way.
The cinematography enhances the creepy aspect and enhances the fantasy aspect. Every single type of genre or theme they're going for, the cinematographer and the director really seem to be on the same level to what they were trying to achieve with not just the look but the tone. They just nailed the tone down. Reason to see number 4, great performances. I have to start off with talking about those 2 little kids.
Yeah, I mean, if nothing else, you have to mention them.
You're compassionate for them when the director wants you to be compassionate for them, and they scare the shit out of you when the director wants you to be scared shitless from them. They're great. I could have bought them as like they cast 2 real sisters together.
Yeah, I mean, they pull some incredible performances out of them, and you know, for such young ages. And I mean, that goes on them and working with the director, I imagine, because, you know, I'm sure they didn't put them in all those scary situations necessarily, but it really comes across, and they're fantastic.
Because like when Lily is being a young child, it's believable. It doesn't, and then when she's also being, you know, showing more of her traumatized sides and her fearful sides, that's also believable. And when she's being a creepy little fuck, it's also believable, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And same thing with Victoria, when she's this girl at that age with that kind of level of confusion and trauma, like, wow, the emotion emitted from them is so believable from both those girls. Without those 2 girls, this movie would not have been as believable.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Did a fantastic job.
And it's great performances throughout, not just her. You know, Jessica Chastain, who is solid in Zero Dark 30.
She's great.
She's great again.
I like to think of this as the sequel to Zero Dark. That's what she does afterwards. Is she goes home, starts a band.
Dyes her hair, really goes all out.
I love that look on her.
No,
I'm just gonna say, tatted up punk chick is Jessica Chastain. That's what's up.
And she's believable in it because
she really is.
The last movie I saw of her was Zero Dark 30, and then I see this, and very believable, very very different, and yet she's subtle, but you don't really realize how great of a performance she actually does in this movie till you reflect back on the film. And then you're like, wow, what a whole arc that she actually goes through from beginning to end of this person who wants to distance herself from all this to willing to sacrifice her life at the end. Like, that's powerful. The way how she does the whole arc. It's very believable when she's becoming mother-like, becoming more of an adult. She's kind of like kiddish in the beginning. Yeah. And to see her like grow up throughout this film, through this journey. Mama could also be about her in a way, like the reference of the title could be towards her as well. It's not, but it can be. Mama, becoming a mama.
She kind of taps into her maternal instincts.
Yeah.
Where she clearly at the beginning of the movie had no intention of tapping into those instincts.
And the guy who played Luke, he's really good in it too. He's not one of the standout performances, but he has a really sympathetic role in it. And
he's got to emote, especially. He technically plays two characters, so that opening scene, like I bought him too. Like they don't expand a whole lot on that element of the story, save to say that he's clearly at a very disturbed, disparate state, but. He's not in a ton of it, but when he is, he's always good.
And the psychologist too is also solid as well. Yeah. He managed to be he fit the genre of this film just right, because he's not like a creepy psychologist, although at times he's a little bit creepy.
He's not creepy, but you have to wonder what his intent is with all this.
Yeah, is he kind of greedy about it? Does he really care? Obviously, he goes a little bit crazy with his journey, but even him like descending into the madness of these children's lives was also very believable. Just throughout.
Split decisions, visual effects.
Now, Mama was very visual effects, and Mama scared me. Like, as far as Mama goes, she scared the crap out of me. With the cinematography, working with the visual effects, I thought that made her look that much more real and believable to me. Had a fantasy aspect to it, so I actually really enjoyed the visual effects on her, and I don't think if the visual effects were as good on her, I don't think I would have been as scared of her.
I go back and forth because there are times I think she looks good in this movie, and then there are times where I'm a little distracted by like, that's a CG creature.
Would it pull you out?
Well, the fact that I was sitting there noticing it was kind of a pull out. it didn't keep me from enjoying the film overall, because I really enjoyed it. I saw the short, and the way they make Mama look in the short is entirely like unnerving. And this was a little more flowy and ethereal and still sinister, but there were certain moments that didn't feel like they absolutely needed to be CGI. Like, I feel like they could have made her face all warped and strange prosthetically, and there were certain times where her face looked that way. Like, I know for the hair and stuff you gotta do it, but there were just times where it felt apparent that I was watching a CG creation.
See, I was never pulled. Were you ever pulled out by it?
No, I actually really liked that aspect of her because it made it seem more mythical. It kind of like pulls you out of the sense that it's not super real, because usually with when it comes to paranormal movies, I get freaked the fuck out. Like, I cannot watch it because I'm so scared it's gonna happen to me. In this situation, she was very scary, she was menacing, but at the same time, the fact of how she looked made it seem like scary within the realms of the movie, not as it applies to me, which made me feel a lot more comfortable, because then I could actually enjoy the movie better without freaking out if I was going to sleep at night or not. But I really like that, and actually that really reminded me of the type of portrayal of the supernatural in The Orphanage. I think she was still really creepy in her movements, and even though she might have looked a little CG-esque, it really didn't, for me, it didn't pull me out of the movie or really bother me much. Or like, oh, I wish they'd made her more, realistic looking. I think it really gave the right tone to the movie, personally.
It's fair. I think also partly I feel like it kind of takes away from what stuff they may have done practically that then doesn't look quite real because of that. Like, it's sort of a blend. Like, I'm all for mixing CGI and practical. Like, I'm down with that. It's just there were certain times where I wasn't entirely convinced by what I was looking at, I guess. But
really, because I felt like the effects of it, because it looked sometimes very CGI to me, I felt it blended in with the realm so well that it actually enhanced it more, because I don't know what a ghost looks like.
Yeah.
I have no idea, but I imagine it looks kind of surreal. It looks a little bit like, whoa, that doesn't look real to me, you know what I mean?
yeah, I mean, because it looks unnatural and it looks like things ought not to look.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm all for that conceptually, because I think that's what they were trying to achieve with the way her limbs move and the way her face is misshapen and her eyes are too close together. I'm all for that design-wise. It's just, yeah, and I'm not saying the effects are bad. I'm just saying I wasn't like, that's a killer effects job when I left the movie. I was like, there were some times where I really liked the effects. There were some times where I was kind of like, oh, you know, I wasn't fully sold by what they did with the effects.
Ah.
That's why it's a split decision.
To each their own.
Hey,
Subscribe.
or else Mama's gonna come and eat you.
Yeah. Subscribe.
And,
Please.
And
Subscribe.